What happens when we hand over the keys to the kingdom to a machine that thinks a stop sign is just a decorative red octagon? We are barreling headfirst into a future run by artificial intelligence, a future we've been promised will be sleek, efficient, and probably full of those cool-looking floating screens from Minority Report. The sales pitch is fantastic. AI will drive our cars, diagnose our illnesses, and maybe even figure out why we can never fold a fitted sheet correctly. But here's the thing. What happens when that AI, the one deciding if you get a mortgage, has the same hidden biases as a grumpy bank manager from the 1950s? We're so busy asking if a robot can do a job, we've forgotten to ask if it should. This isn't some far-off dystopian fantasy anymore. It's here, it's now, and it's deciding things, important things, the kind of things that can change a life. We've built these incredibly complex systems, these digital brains, and we've told them to go forth and optimize the world for us. We've essentially hired a supremely confident, incredibly fast, and slightly clueless intern to run global society. And like any intern, it's making some colossal mistakes because it's learning from the questionable examples we've given it. The problem is, when this intern messes up, it doesn't just jam the photocopier. It can systematically ruin lives on a massive industrial scale, and it won't even feel bad about it. Imagine a world where a computer program looks at your name, your zip code, and your internet browsing history and decides you are a bad risk. Not just a bad risk for a credit card, but a bad risk for a job, for an apartment, or even for your freedom. This is the quiet, creeping reality of AI decision-making. We are outsourcing our judgment to black boxes of code, hoping for the best. We're crossing our fingers and trusting that a string of ones and zeros will somehow be wiser and fairer than we are. But these systems are not magic. They are mirrors. And right now, they are reflecting some of the ugliest parts of our society, right back at us with terrifying efficiency. So, the big screaming question is this. Are we building a better future? Or are we just automating our own worst instincts? Are we creating a tool for unparalleled progress? Or are we just building a faster, more efficient way to make the same old, tired, human mistakes? We're at a crossroads, and one path leads to a world where technology serves humanity, while the other leads to a world where we serve the bizarre, unintended consequences of our own flawed creations. It's a choice we need to make with our eyes wide open, because the off button is getting harder and harder to find. Let's look at some real-world examples, because this is where the theoretical fun and games get painfully real. Consider the world of finance. You apply for a loan. You think a human being, maybe named Susan or Frank, will look at your application. Wrong. An algorithm does. And that algorithm might have been trained on decades of loan data. Data that, surprise, reflects decades of human bias. So if historically, people from a certain neighborhood or with a certain kind of name were denied loans more often, the AI learns that pattern. It doesn't understand systemic inequality, it just understands that these inputs lead to a no. The result? You get rejected not because you're a bad risk, but because the machine found a correlation that has more to do with prejudice than your actual ability to pay it back. Then there's the justice system, which is an absolutely terrific place to introduce untested, biased technology. What could possibly go wrong? Some police departments have used predictive policing software. This AI is supposed to predict where crime is likely to happen. But how does it do that? By looking at historical crime data. And where do police historically spend most of their time? In lower income and minority neighborhoods. So the AI tells the police to go back to those same neighborhoods, which leads to more arrests there, which generates more data, which tells the AI to send even more police. It's a terrifying feedback loop. It's not predicting crime, it's predicting policing. It's like using a weather app that only forecasts rain wherever it's already raining. The hiring process isn't safe either. Companies have used AI to sift through thousands of resumes, looking for the perfect candidate. One tech giant famously had to scrap an AI recruiting tool after they discovered it was penalizing applicants for things like attending an all-women's college. Why? Because the system was trained on the company's own hiring data from the past 10 years, which was, you guessed it, overwhelmingly male. The AI learned that successful candidates were men, so it taught itself that being a man was a key qualification for the job. It wasn't programmed to be sexist, it just became sexist by diligently studying a sexist world. It was a perfect student of our own imperfect history. These aren't just glitches in the system, they are the system working as designed. The AI is doing exactly what it was told to do, find patterns in the data and use them to make predictions. The problem is that our data is a mess. It's a chaotic, biased, and often unfair reflection of our society. The algorithm doesn't know the history of redlining or the complexities of gender inequality. It just sees numbers, draws a line, and makes a call. And when that call reinforces the very biases we're trying to escape, the AI becomes less of a futuristic tool and more of a high-tech anchor, chaining us to the worst parts of our past. So, why does this keep happening? How do our brilliant machines turn into digital bigots? The answer is depressingly simple, and it comes down to two main things: the data we feed them and the humans who build them. The first part is the principle of garbage in, garbage out. But with AI, it's more like garbage in, garbage gospel out. An AI system learns about the world from the data it's given. If that data is skewed, incomplete, or reflects existing societal biases, the AI will treat that information as the absolute truth. It will learn those biases not as flaws, but as fundamental rules of how the world works, and then apply them with ruthless mathematical precision. Think of it like this. You're trying to teach an alien about Earth, but you only show it reality television. That alien is going to come to some truly spectacular conclusions about human behavior. It'll think our primary activities are flipping tables, arguing about dinner parties, and having dramatic secrets. That's essentially what we're doing with AI. We are feeding it a data set that is a highlight reel of our historical biases. The AI doesn't have the context to understand that the data is a product of a flawed past. It just sees what it's given and learns its lessons. And its lessons are, apparently, that certain groups of people are less trustworthy or less competent. The second ingredient in this recipe for disaster is us, the humans, the programmers, the engineers, the executives who design and deploy these systems. Every choice they make matters. What data do they choose to use? What outcome are they trying to optimize for? A programmer might tell an AI to maximize profit without considering that the most profitable route might be to engage in discriminatory practices. They might not even be aware of their own unconscious biases, which can subtly influence how they structure the algorithm or what they define as a successful outcome. We are the architects of these digital minds, and our blueprints are far from perfect. Ultimately, the danger is that we are building our own flaws directly into the source code of the future. We risk creating a new, more powerful form of systemic bias, one that's harder to see and even harder to argue with. How do you appeal a decision made by an algorithm? You can't have a heart-to-heart with a server rack. You can't reason with a line of code. We are outsourcing our judgment to systems that we don't fully understand, and that have learned from the worst parts of ourselves. And in doing so, we might just be creating a smarter, faster, and more efficient version of our own worst instincts. So here we are, standing at the dawn of the AI age, holding a very powerful tool that seems to have a mind of its own. What do we do now? We can't just unplug everything and go back to using an abacus. The genie is out of the bottle and it's already busy optimizing our supply chains. This means we have some tough, brave, and frankly, very grown-up choices to make. This isn't a tech problem. It's a human problem. It's about the kind of society we want to live in. Do we want a world optimized for pure, cold efficiency, even if it's unfair? Or do we want a world that values fairness, justice, and human dignity, even if it's a little messier? The first step is to stop treating AI as an infallible oracle. We need to demand transparency. We need to be able to look under the hood and understand why an AI made a particular decision. If a company can't explain how its algorithm works, then it shouldn't be using it to decide who gets a home or a job. We need to build in accountability. When an AI system causes harm, we need a way to fix it and ensure the people who deployed it are held responsible. We can't let corporations hide behind the excuse that the computer said no. That's a coward's way out, and it's not good enough when people's lives are on the line. This also requires us, as a society, to have an uncomfortable conversation about our values. We need to decide what our ethical red lines are. What decision should never be delegated to a machine? Should an AI ever be allowed to make life or death decisions in a battlefield? Should a program decide who gets a life-saving organ transplant? These are not easy questions, and there are no simple answers, but we have to ask them, and we have to debate them openly and honestly. Ignoring them is a choice in itself. A choice to let a handful of tech companies in Silicon Valley decide the future of humanity for the rest of us. And that should be a terrifying thought for everyone. The decisions we make right now, today in 2025, will echo for generations. We have a fleeting opportunity to steer this incredible technology in a direction that benefits all of humanity, not just a select few. This requires courage. It requires us to prioritize people over profit and ethics over efficiency. It requires us to be thoughtful, skeptical, and demanding citizens not just passive consumers of technology. The future is not yet written. We can build a world where AI helps us become better, fairer, and more just. Or we can build a world where our machines simply amplify our failings. The choice for now is still ours. Let's be brave enough to make the right one.